Let's talk about creating a space for difficult, complicated, important conversations. Hey everyone, I'm James Milan. Welcome to Let's Talk About.
Hi, Joanne Clinton. How are you?
And today we want to talk about our bodies over time.
Yes.
And lots to be said. Let's start off by just kind of acknowledging where we are at in life, which is I'm in my mid-60s and you are...
Excuse me?
Exactly.
Excuse me?
There you go. That starts it right there, right?
I'm in my late 50s.
Okay. Oh, really? All right. Fair enough. That's beautiful, really, initial reaction there, because what we want to talk about, again, let's talk about what's it all about. It's about having conversations that most people would go, shy away from, not be willing to do. You know, we want to really talk about the brass tacks of this stuff as much as we can. And in your case, as I threw that at you, your first reaction mirrored those of so many people that I know.
Yeah, and most of them women.
And perhaps many more women than men. Why do you think that is?
Because society and our culture here in America, your youth, vitality, and your physical attractiveness as a woman, as they say, is a form of currency. And that currency tends to become depleted as you get older and as you lose whatever at the peak of your attractiveness was, it starts to decline over time. And to be honest, you know, sometimes as a woman, you can use it as leverage in different situations. And so nobody wants to be told that you're losing your currency and your leverage, and and then people ask you, well, how old are you? And you're like, what? I gotta, and I have children now, and the saying is, once you have children, you can't lie about your age anymore.
Well, and plus your age, you can add 2 or 3 or 4 to your age right away, just from, the process of raising children, which we were saying earlier, can prematurely age you, so to speak. But I'd love to, though, start with where you were talking about the time of leverage, right? So let's talk about, let's start by talking about, how things were when we were young. What do you remember about your relationship with your body when you were a young woman? Or even a girl?
A girl?
Yeah, I mean, we can go back that far.
Playing outside, riding a bike, running, playing all day, falling down, skinning your knees, going swimming, and just, go to sleep, get up in the morning, jump out the bed, and do it all over again. I cannot jump anywhere anymore. Not unless something's on fire. I'm not trying to jump. No. I look twice before I step off the curb. No. I can't, my knees and my ankles, they just can't do all that anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you're describing and what I remember from being a boy, and well into young adulthood as well, is you just didn't have to think about any of that stuff.
No.
You wanted to do it, you do it.
You do it.
It's crazy, it's silly, it's whatever it is, you do it. Just simply because you say, I'm going to, and then your body follows. And of course, when you're in a situation like that, you're not really thinking either about what you might be doing to your body or what the consequences could be further on or what you might have to deal with later. And, we are now in that later that we never thought about.
Yes. The wake-up call that I'm old is a couple of years ago. I was with my late husband. He was alive at the time, and I woke up And I don't know what I did the day before, probably too much standing, but both my knees were swollen. And it never happened to me before. So when I went to the urgent care, and they examined my knees, and they tested me to see if my kidneys were failing, and I was so affronted. I was like, "What do you mean? It's my knees." They said, "Well, it can be a sign of other things, and you have a long history of high blood pressure, and so we have to take these precautions as somebody of your demographic." I'm like, if one more person talk about my demographic, I'm going to lose it. But it's just a reality, being of a particular age and having a history of certain medical issues. That's the protocol that they follow to make sure that you don't have these other issues going on. And when I was 20-nothing years old, it never crossed my mind.
Right.
I mean, the whole idea that one day my knees were going to swell and I'll be tested to see if my kidneys are failing. I'm like, what? That's crazy. And even as a young woman, wearing high-heeled shoes, or, I don't wear high-heeled shoes anymore because I have the knee issue. And at first it's like, you see the shoe, they're gorgeous, they're beautiful, you want to wear them, but you can't. Now it's like, I've been dismissed from that, I'm relieved from that, I don't have to deal with that anymore. So I can go to the more comfortable end of the shoe store and just relax. But I went through a phase, I would say like the last couple of years, like in the summertime, where I took some time out and I intentionally mourned my youth. Because
So you did that deliberately, intentionally, like you said.
Yes, because sometimes I would feel like, oh, I want to go out, I want to go dancing, I want to go out, I want to have a good time. But what I remember of that is the 90s. That's 30, 35 years ago. The out that I'm looking for, the going out, having a good time that I'm looking for, it does not exist anymore. The vibe, the people, the music, the fashion, all those things that I remember of having just a great time on the weekend. They're theme parties now. People have 90s theme parties. Right. I said, oh, come on.
Right, theme party about your youth. So when you set out to mourn your youth, was that so that you would have a place to put it, that you could mourn it and feel like you were done and put it aside?
Yes, because I saw this woman, very famous woman, I'm not going to say her name, behaving and trying to be something she once was. And it looked really sad. And I was like, do I do that? Am I trying? I said, no, I gotta like, accept it, mourn it, and let it go, so you don't get stuck in your past. So I don't get stuck in my past. So I don't get hung up on wanting to trying to be me at 28, 29, 30. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
When that, because that was a really fun and youthful time in my life, but and I am still me, but I am not that 30-year-old woman anymore. I have to leave 30 back at 30,
Yeah.
And sometimes that can be difficult.
Right. You might not even realize that you're trying hard not to, not to let 30 go until you see somebody else in the way that you were just talking about, and you're like, ooh, that doesn't look good. That's not, I don't want to be, oh, wait, maybe I am.
Yeah. And I started questioning things like wearing logo T-shirts and even wearing denim, having my nose pierced. I said, well, all of this stuff, the nose piercing's going to stay. I have conversations with myself. The nose piercing's going to stay. But getting
So
rid of
you're
the,
like negotiating with yourself,
yeah,
basically?
yes. Okay, the jewelry's gonna stay. The earrings, the nose piercings is gonna stay. Yeah, I might not do the double piercing. I used to have my nose double. I have my nose double pierced, but I only wear one piercing now. The jewelry's gonna stay, but we're gonna relax with, you know, wearing logo T-shirts or wearing jeans or trying to wear some kind of high heel shoe or boot or something.
So
Let
all
that
those
stuff go.
things were things you were associating with youth now, or with your own youth.
My
And
own youth, yeah,
in one way,
things that I could do, like wearing heels was you didn't have to think. I didn't have to think about it. Just put them on and go. Now, no, I can't do that because I take one too many steps in a pair of high heels, I will hit the ground. My knees will not accept it. My knees will not accept it.
yeah. So I think one of the things that, is a truism or is a universal is the aches and the pains and the things that you have to manage that come with, with time and with age. I'll just say about myself that for my whole life, I've been playing sports and being what I think of as an athlete. And in fact, in a lot of ways, people will set some kind of goal for themselves in life. They want to be an astronaut. They want to, own a house. They want to do this, that, and the other thing. For me, the big moment in my life where I said, I'm gonna set something as a goal for myself, and I'm gonna try and get there. It was in my mid-20s, and it was around a sport. It was an athletic challenge. It was also a challenge for my mind because of the discipline that it would take and all that. But it was no coincidence that it was something that I could do with my body, which had always been kind of like above average at the sports that I did, but I wanted to see if I could be great at something, right? And it had to be physical. And one thing I didn't think about as I was eating cheeseburgers and, lunches of cheeseburgers and fries 4 out of 5 days a week because I was 25 years old and playing a sport that, meant that I could get away with anything like that. One thing I didn't think, one thing I was very cavalier, as were my friends, about was, oh yeah, when I get to my 50s and 60s, I'll probably be really sorry that I did all this, but that's all right. And here I am, and I have spent a certain amount of the last 20 years really sorry about how all those decisions I made in my 20s and 30s, because I was a guy who, before I turned 50, my knees were so bad that I knew, I wasn't telling myself, I knew that I couldn't run across the street. And I thought, I'm 48 or whatever I was, 46, and I'm never going to be able to run across the street for the rest of my life because of the damage that I had done to my knees over that time. And fortunately, because of the, because I live in Boston, because there's modern technology, because there's knee replacements and things like that, and I've had an extremely successful one, that's no longer the case. That I've been reborn in that particular way. But really, the reconciling, like you said, you put aside the time to mourn your youth at one point. I never did that. And it lingered, this feeling of, oh God, I could do all that stuff, and now I can't do hardly any of it. And it's because I did it that I can hardly do it now. Made me feel about my body like it was my enemy, and I had been its enemy because I had not treated it the right way. I had not responded to its signals when I was young. I had just said, you can deal with it, body. I need to get back on the field because I'm in pursuit of championships, and I need the minimum amount of time in the hospital or in recovery or whatever it is, back on the field, get to it. Come on, body, go. And my poor body was like, okay, if you say so, I guess I will, until it didn't have it. And then it started talking back to the rest of me and going, okay, here's the deal now. Here's the payback. And it's been you know, not an easy time since my mid-40s on, because of this, and because so much of my self-identity was wrapped up in that.
So mourning youth, have you had time or awareness or the forethought to intentionally give yourself time to mourn your youth?
I don't think I mean, again, when you said that, it struck me, you know, as, oh, that could be an approach. And actually, I've had this kind of strange, it wasn't a death, but it was something to be mourned that now has become, because again, thank you, doctors. Thank you, Boston Medical Establishment, for giving me an opportunity to do what I thought I would never do again, and now I can do. And I also have been able to give up chronic pain, which we haven't spoken about.
Great.
But chronic pain is another piece of one's relationship with one's body over time. Because, yeah, if you're lucky enough and you're, you know, and you don't do stupid things or, you know, hard things or whatever, then maybe you get to go through your whole life and not have any chronic pain. Relatively few people I know who've reached the age that I am or my parents are get that free pass. And instead, many deal with chronic pain, and it comes in so many different forms.
Oh, yes.
But I mean, I'm sure you can speak to it too, right?
I had my span of time with chronic pain, and it's a little much. I guess I'll speak freely about it. I've only got 10 minutes, but I was one of those women who developed fibroids. They're non-cancerous fibrous tumors that develop in the uterus. And they're very common amongst women of color and African American women. But that doesn't change the fact that they are painful. And I had one removed after I had my son, because I was told I would never have any kids because of the fibroid, but I carried children and a fibroid. And I had that one large fibroid removed after my son was born. And then a few years later, I started to feel symptoms that were familiar. I said, oh, come on. And so I was starting, and this time I was starting to develop, they said, looks like there's 3, they're kind of small. That was then. And it was like in the late 90s. So by the time like 2008, 2009, 2010 rolled around, I was having some serious pain and serious symptoms. I mean, on any given day, I would stop bleeding. I didn't have, quote unquote, a period. I just had, it's like, and they said, well, that's because of the fibroids. I said, well, you telling me what the problem is how do we fix this? Well, someone of your age, we normally don't do, you know, a hysterectomy. I said, well, how long do I have to suffer? They said, well, let's try, you know, different things like, you know, your diet, or just using like naproxen, which is anti-inflammatory to manage the pain. And I'm like, oh boy. And then I came here to Boston in 2013, and I went to see a specialist, and they're like, no way, you got to improve your quality of life. This is what we can do. They asked me how old my youngest child was. I said at that time, I think it was like 24 or something like that. And they said, oh, I said, no, I'm not really interested in having any more children. And so I had a hysterectomy. And when I tell you, and the nurse in recovery, she was like, amazed that I wasn't using the painkiller as much as I was allowed to. And I said to her, I said, you don't understand. I can feel that those tumors are gone. So the pain of this recovery is less than the pain of me carrying those 3 tumors. And she was like, really? I said, yeah.
Wow.
My uterus was the size of a 5-month pregnancy. And I had 3 tumors inside of me that were the size of like mangoes.
Wow.
And then I recovered, and I was like, oh boy. You know, after the first 4 weeks, I felt fantastic. And I started thinking about, I won't have that pain anymore. Right? But also, I've lost part of a female organ. Oh, what does that mean? Am I still a woman? Only one that knows it is you, Joanne. Talking to myself again. Only one knows. I'm like, yeah. But you know, you do these internal conversations, but I've noticed things like, you know, coarser nails, coarser toenails, facial hair, that old, quote unquote, that old lady effect. And now I've already lost some teeth, but I'm accepting and embracing being here and enjoying it. And I think I'm doing that because I did take the time out because I was going through some, I don't know, you know, am I beautiful anymore? Am I a woman? Am I old? Is anyone gonna want me? And I'm like, I don't want to feel like that anymore. So someone suggested that I read this book about letting go. And I decided that, you know, last summer and part of the summer before that, I did take some time to really remember, like look through old photo albums and
Really kind of go ahead and give yourself a time to wallow, right?
Immerse in it, and even like remember some of the movies that I thought was so important and poignant when I was that age. And I watched a couple of movies. I don't know what it was about this one movie that it triggered it. It was a movie called Less Than Zero. Oh, Robert Downey Jr.
Right? Yeah.
And I cried and I cried, and I'm like, why am I having such a reaction to this movie? And I was like, oh, it was what I was doing when I first saw this movie. I think I was just coming out of high school, going into junior college, and we were at the very fresh height of our friendship. Me and my friends that I talked about before in the other segment. We used to go to the movies. We used to go to this place called the Car Palace on the 21 Club, and it was all that youthfulness that was in the movie. That's what I was doing. You know what I'm saying? And I cried because, girl, that was almost 40 years ago. Actually, yeah. 17, yeah, it was 40 years ago. I was like, 40 years, where'd they go? You know?
Well, here's something that I say to people all the time, and I have said for a long time, which I'm surprised, and it's no news to you or me, but that is, in life, you know, you can have hours and days that go by really slowly, but the decades, they go like that, man. And that's what we're talking about as well in terms of aging and accepting aging, is the fact that you talk in decades and you remember things decades ago and you think to yourself, was I a different person? And for me at least, and I think maybe for you from conversations we've had before, no, I'm that person. I'm that guy inside of this body. I'm that guy.
And I'm still that girl. Accepting and taking responsibility for what your body needs at this age is a big deal. I need to use my CPAP. I need to walk around sometimes, you know, and I need to make sure I'm properly hydrated and take my medicine every day, my blood pressure medication every day. the 30-something me never.
Like you said, it was almost like the 15-year-old you, right? Just
Yeah,
jump up.
Yeah, I
What
know.
am I going to do today? Just
I could fall asleep at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, get up at like 7 and be to work by 8:30, and it was like, how was your weekend? Oh, fine,
normal.
normal. If I don't go to sleep before midnight, I'm not getting up until.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear you. So
you know, with each new, and I heard this somewhere. We know as you get older, you get to take more responsibility for yourself and your health, and value that, so you can enjoy your life as the older you that knows better. But see, that's the part that I really appreciate now, is how much more I know better. You know.
Absolutely. And I have to say that for me personally, and I know we're running out of time here, but for me personally, always having, again, physical goals. And when I gave up the athletic career that I had achieved a lot, and it mattered to me. And I wanted to find the next thing that I could just strive towards and achieve. And I was struggling for years to not being able to find that, and then also having a body that couldn't deal with those new rigors. So I couldn't set that. Well, now, all these years later, I'm very clear on why I work out, why I try and eat decently, why I try and do other things. I hope to be a grandfather someday, not yet, but still hoping. And I just want to be active. And I want to be active in my life, with my wife, to do the things we want to do, and to be there for these hypothetical grandkids and actually have an active role in their lives. And that's enough, And when I was young, if that had been my goal, I'd been like, that's not much to ask for, but that's all I want now. So let me ask you one last question. Anything that you, from the wisdom that you have now and all the experience, et cetera, that you would love to have said to your younger self, that you would love to have been able to know at that time?
Don't be afraid. Because I always had like this latent anxiety about what if, maybe, should I do this, should I do that, should I try to do this, maybe, I don't know, I'm scared, maybe I should. Don't be afraid. And like I've told some friends of mine, and you probably can agree with me, even though you've sustained some physical damage, that whatever it is in this life that you want to do, and it's a good thing, just go do it. Because life is too short. Youth is even shorter. And you want to be able to say, when I did, and I remember I had a great time.
That's great.
Yeah.
And that is a fabulous place for us to end. What may be part one of a longer conversation, we'll figure that out.
Yes.
But anyway, that's the conversation for today.
Yeah.
She is Joanne Clinton.
Hello. Goodbye.
And
See you soon.
You can tell them who I am that way.
Oh, yes. Oh. This is
So I'll start all over again.
Okay.
She is Joanne Clinton.
And he is James Milan.
And this is Let's Talk About. Thanks so much for joining us.
See you soon.
ACMi productions are only made possible with your support. Visit patreon.com/ACMi to learn how you can help.